They said he was too loud, that his laughter was annoying. But to me, it was music. My son Liam's giggles were the last pure thing in my life. So when my own sister broke his tooth for laughing too hard at breakfast, and my parents called it discipline, I knew then we were never family. We were just tolerated. That's when I stopped asking for love and started planning something better. Not revenge, not justice, something colder. They destroyed his smile to keep their pride. So I shattered their legacy to save his soul. They never saw it coming, but they'll remember it forever. The tyres crunched softly on the gravel as Samantha pulled into the long, familiar driveway. The oak tree at the end still leaned slightly, just like it had during her childhood, an unchanging witness to years of holiday visits, summer games, and eventually silence. Liam sat in the back seat, kicking his legs gently, humming a silly tune he'd made up himself. "Are we here, Mummy?" he asked, his voice bubbling with curiosity. "We're here, baby," she replied, forcing a smile. Her fingers tightened on the steering wheel. She hadn't been back in 2 years. Not since the accident with her college savings. Accident, her parents called it. Theft, Samantha knew in her bones. The money she'd scraped together over years, working double shifts as a nurse. Gone, funneled quietly into her sister Kathy's cosmetic procedures. Liposuction and new teeth. Overeducation and survival. That betrayal had cut deeper than any insult. But when Kathy called last week saying their mother's health was failing, Samantha felt that aching pull again. Family, guilt, obligation. Maybe, just maybe, things had changed. She reached into the back seat, brushing a curl out of Liam's face. "Let's try to be on our best behaviour, okay?" Liam gave her his usual grin, the one that crinkled his eyes and showed the little gap between his front teeth. Like super best, the best of the best. The front door opened before she could even ring the bell. Kathy stood there, leaning against the frame, with a mug in hand and a smile that never reached her eyes. Her hair was perfect, her nails red and sharp. "Well, well," she said, her voice honeyed with sarcasm. "Look what the cat dragged in." Samantha stepped forward, holding Liam's hand. "Hey, Kath." Kathy's gaze dropped to Liam, who wore one green sock and one blue, curls slightly messy from the ride. Kathy arched a brow. "Raising a clown now, huh?" she muttered, sipping her drink. Samantha felt her stomach drop, but she forced a laugh. "He likes colours." Kathy gave Liam a brief, performative smile. "Oh, I see. Creative. That's cute." She turned around without waiting, leaving the door open behind her. Liam looked up, confused. "Is she mad?" "No, sweetie," Samantha said softly. "Some people just forget how to smile." Inside, the house smelled like stale cinnamon and antiseptic. The living room hadn't changed. Same outdated beige carpet, same dusty family portraits on the walls. One large frame held a picture of Kathy at her college graduation. Samantha's spot had always been empty. Her mother appeared in the hallway, clutching a glass of water and looking thinner, older. "You made it," she said flatly, eyes drifting past Samantha to focus on Liam. "This must be him," she added. "Does he always talk so much in the car?" "He's excited," Samantha replied, trying to keep her voice even. "He's never met you before." "Well, he's loud," her mother muttered. Samantha swallowed hard. They hadn't even been in the house for 10 minutes. Kathy reappeared, tossing her phone onto the kitchen counter. "So where's Liam's father, or should I say donor?" It hit like a slap. Samantha blinked, stunned by the suddenness, the venom. Liam stood beside her, still smiling, not understanding the insult. "He's not in the picture," she said, her voice cold. Kathy shrugged. "Figures." Samantha's grip on Liam's hand tightened. "We're here to see Mom. That's it." Kathy raised her hands, mock innocent. "Hey, you came. Just don't expect this to be some tearful reunion." Liam tugged on his mom's sleeve. "Can I go see the backyard? You said there'd be frogs." "Of course," Samantha whispered. "Go ahead, baby, but stay where I can see you." He bolted toward the glass door, laughter trailing behind him. Kathy shook her head. "That laugh, Jesus, piercing." Samantha turned toward her, smile gone. "He's 7, he's allowed to laugh." Kathy smirked. "So were we. Once. Before reality hit." Samantha said nothing. Instead, she watched her son through the glass, chasing a butterfly, joyful, innocent. She made a silent promise then. No matter how bad this visit got, she would protect that laugh. No one, especially not her family, would take that from him. Dinner was served on the same chipped porcelain plates Samantha remembered from childhood. Plates that had once held birthday cake and now bore overcooked pot roast. The table was eerily quiet, except for the clinking of cutlery and Liam's soft humming. He was trying his best to behave, his feet barely touching the floor as he sat on the too tall dining chair. "Don't kick the legs," her father said gruffly, not even looking up. "This isn't a playground." Liam stilled immediately. Samantha touched his back gently, whispering, "It's okay." Kathy spooned potatoes onto her plate with theatrical flair. "So, Liam, what do you want to be when you grow up? A clown or maybe a foghorn?" Liam blinked. "I want to be a dinosaur explorer." "A what?" her father muttered, scoffing. Samantha cleared her throat. "He loves dinosaurs. He reads about them every day." "Well, maybe start with grammar," Kathy quipped, "then fossils." Their mother let out a soft sigh, as if the entire exchange was exhausting her. "He's just very expressive." The tension was thick. Liam, oblivious, stabbed a potato with his fork, then gasped in delight. "It looks like a spaceship." He held it up proudly, giggling. The laughter bounced through the room like sunlight through stained glass, brief but bright. "Use your indoor voice," her father barked. "This isn't a zoo." Liam's fork clattered to his plate. Samantha clenched her fists under the table. "He's just being joyful," she said quietly. "Joyful is fine. Disruptive is not," her mother countered, sipping her tea. Kathy leaned over her plate, voice low enough only Samantha could hear. "You really birthed a burden." Samantha froze. The words cut deeper than they should have. She turned to Kathy slowly, her jaw tight. "Excuse me?" Kathy's smile didn't reach her eyes. "You heard me." Samantha inhaled deeply, her fingers trembling. She wanted to shout, to throw her glass, to demand Kathy take it back. But then she glanced at her mother, expression neutral, and her father, who hadn't even flinched. This was normal to them. She swallowed her rage like glass and looked down at Liam, who was quietly nibbling a roll, his earlier laughter extinguished. "I thought we were here to reconnect," Samantha said through clenched teeth. Her mother waved her hand. "We are, but reconnecting doesn't mean pretending everything's perfect." Kathy added, "Or ignoring when your kid's a walking siren." The room spun slightly. Samantha blinked, focusing on her son's curls, the way he hunched his shoulders. Shame. He was learning shame, here, in this house that was supposed to offer safety. "I think dinner's over," Samantha said sharply, standing. Liam looked up, startled. "Did I do something bad?" "No, baby," she whispered, kissing his head. "You were just being yourself." Her father finally looked up. Being himself's the problem. That was it, the final straw. Samantha picked up Liam and turned without another word. Kathy's laughter followed her like static, grating, mocking, hollow. She walked them upstairs, tucked Liam into the guest bed, and sat beside him until he drifted off. Even in sleep, his brow furrowed. Downstairs she could hear the faint clinking of dishes, the clatter of normalcy. They didn't even realise what they'd done, or worse, they didn't care. Samantha stood by the window, looking out at the dark backyard. She had come hoping for healing. Instead, she found rot in the foundation. This wasn't a home. It was a museum of denial, and she had brought her child here like an offering, hoping for warmth. Morning came too early. Samantha hadn't slept. She'd spent most of the night staring at the ceiling, listening to Liam's shallow breathing beside her. Every creak of the house sent adrenaline through her body. She told herself it was just one more day. Just survive the weekend. Liam woke up cheerful, as always, stretching with a little yawn. "Can we make pancakes today, Mummy?" "We'll see," she smiled faintly. "Go wash up first, okay?" He scampered off to the bathroom, and for a moment things almost felt normal. The scream came 5 minutes later. It was the kind of sound that paralysed a mother, sharp, primal, not just pain, but panic. Samantha flew down the stairs barefoot, heart pounding. She found him in the kitchen, crumpled on the tile floor, hands cupped over his mouth. Blood dripped between his fingers. Kathy stood above him, arms folded, completely unbothered. "He wouldn't shut up," Kathy said flatly. "I told him 3 times. Then he screamed in my ear. I tapped him. His tooth must have been loose." What did you do?" Samantha's voice cracked with disbelief. "I tapped him," Kathy repeated. "Calm down." Samantha dropped to her knees, pulling Liam into her arms. His lip was swollen, one of his front teeth dangling grotesquely. His sobs were guttural, his body shaking. "You hit a child," she hissed. Kathy rolled her eyes. "Don't be dramatic. It's just a baby tooth." Footsteps approached. Their mother turned the corner, still in her robe, holding a coffee mug. She took one look at the scene and sipped her drink. "Lexi's got a short fuse, you know that," she said casually. "Don't raise loud mouths if you want peace in someone else's house." "Someone else's house?" Samantha whispered, stunned. "I didn't mean it like that," her mother said, still not looking directly at her. "And maybe he was being disrespectful." "He's 7!" Samantha cried. "He was laughing." Her father's voice floated in from the living room, where he was, as always, watching TV. Just like his mother, all noise, no value. Samantha froze. Her arms wrapped tighter around Liam. His blood had smeared across her shirt, sticky and warm. "This isn't happening," she muttered. Kathy huffed. "You always overreact. God, it was a tap. If he were raised properly, he wouldn't be so sensitive." "He's a child," Samantha shouted. "You don't get to decide how he feels. You don't get to touch him." Her mother took another sip. "If you're taking him to the ER, don't expect gas money." That was it. Samantha rose slowly, still cradling Liam. She walked to the counter, grabbed her purse with one hand, holding her son close with the other. "We're leaving." "No one's stopping you," her father called without turning his head. Not one of them moved. Not one of them showed concern, not even to ask if Liam was okay. Her vision blurred with fury and grief. She stepped into the car with trembling hands and buckled Liam in. His face was pale, his eyes dazed. "Did I do something bad?" he whispered. She kissed his forehead. "No, baby, you were just being happy." They drove in silence, the only sound the faint whimpering from the back seat. The urgent care clinic was 20 minutes away, but it felt like hours. Samantha clutched the steering wheel with white knuckles, glancing back at Liam every 30 seconds. He sat hunched, a towel pressed to his mouth, the bright red stain growing by the minute. When they arrived, the nurse took one look and rushed them in ahead of the queue. Samantha explained what happened with trembling breath. "He fell," she lied. It spilled out automatically, not out of loyalty, out of shame. The doctor, a kind-eyed man in his 50s, examined Liam gently. "There's a fracture straight to the root," he said after a moment. "It'll need to be extracted. He's in a lot of pain, but the swelling should go down within a few days." Samantha nodded, numb. Her chest tightened as Liam gripped her hand. "Will it hurt?" he asked softly. "We'll use numbing agents," the doctor reassured. "He'll be okay." Liam looked at Samantha, his eyes searching for something, comfort, maybe answers. "Did I do something bad, Mummy?" he whispered. Samantha felt her throat close. "No, baby," she said, choking back a sob. "You did nothing wrong. You were just being you." Liam turned away, and in that moment she saw something inside him dim, a part of his sparkle, his innocence, shaken loose by a moment that should never have happened. They patched him up and sent them home with painkillers and post-op instructions. Samantha thanked the nurse, cradling Liam in her arms like she had when he was a baby. As she walked back to the car, her phone buzzed in her pocket. A message from her mother. "Just making sure you're not being overdramatic again." Kathy said it wasn't that bad. She bit her tongue until it bled. Then another ping. This one wasn't from her mother. It was from Kathy, but it wasn't sent to her. Samantha had somehow been added accidentally to a group thread between Kathy and their mother. Her eyes froze on the screen. "Kathy, all done. Kid screamed like a fire alarm. She's probably halfway to the ER by now." "Mum, you shouldn't have gone that far." Kathy, "Whatever. That little brat needed a lesson." Mum, "Just don't make it messy. You know how she gets." Samantha stood frozen in the parking lot, cold air slicing through her like a blade. They planned it. This wasn't an accident. It wasn't a tap. It was calculated, deliberate. Her knees weakened and she slid into the driver's seat, shaking. Liam was drifting into a medicated sleep in the back seat, unaware. She stared at the messages, rereading them again and again. All done. As if hurting her child was a task to check off a list, her entire body shook, not just with rage, but with something deeper, betrayal layered upon betrayal. This wasn't about her parenting. It wasn't even about Liam. It was about control. They couldn't manipulate her anymore. So they hurt the one thing she loved most and laughed about it. A switch flipped in her mind, the kind that doesn't flip back. For years, Samantha had tolerated the jabs, the dismissals, the cruelty dressed as concern. She had hoped that one day they would love her the way she loved them, that one day she'd stop being the outsider in her own family. But this was war. She opened her notes app, started typing, names, timestamps, a photo of Liam's mouth before the ER, the bloody towel. This wasn't going to be another wound she swallowed. This time, they would bleed. Samantha didn't cry anymore. There were no tears left. Only focus. Her mind had shifted into something sharper, colder. Crying hadn't protected Liam. Trust hadn't shielded him. But planning might. She started with the photos, Liam's swollen lip, the blood-stained towel, the X-ray from the ER showing the root damage. She catalogued everything in a secure folder, labelled plainly, evidence. Then came the texts, screenshots of the group chat Kathy had mistakenly added her to. She saved them in multiple places, her phone, her cloud, an encrypted USB drive. She even printed hard copies and sealed them in a fireproof envelope. It wasn't paranoia. It was preparation. Because now Samantha understood something she hadn't fully accepted before. Her family wasn't toxic. They were dangerous. While Liam slept off the pain medication, she sat at the kitchen table, phone in one hand, pen in the other. Names, dates, details, every insult, every manipulation, every time they'd gaslit her into silence. Every time they made her feel like the broken one. She reached out to a friend from college, now a family lawyer, and asked for a consultation. When the woman heard what had happened, she responded with one sentence. "You need to protect him legally now." That evening, Samantha gathered every legal document that still tied her to her parents. Power of attorney forms, emergency contact permissions, old medical proxies. They were relics from a time when she still believed they could be trusted. She started revoking them all. The more she prepared, the stronger she felt. Not healed, no, that was a long road ahead, but steady, capable, until she opened her old tax records. It started as a routine check. She wanted to ensure her employment information was up to date for court filings. But something caught her eye, an unfamiliar loan listed under her name. Her brows furrowed. The document said she had co-signed a small business loan 2 years ago, only she hadn't. She scrolled through pages, then froze. The co-signer's address matched her parents'. Her breath hitched. She dug deeper. Another loan, a credit card, all tied to her identity, all opened after she distanced herself from her family, and all still active. Her heart pounded as she dialed the bank. An hour later, she hung up, hand shaking. The representative confirmed it. The applications had been completed using Samantha's social security number and birth date, all under the pretense of family emergency support. Her mother's name was on the beneficiary line. Samantha stared at the wall, unable to process the weight of it. While she'd been scraping together enough money for Liam's clothes, food, and school supplies, her mother had been using her name to take out loans, and none of it had gone toward care, medication, or anything essential. It was all listed as cosmetic procedure financing, multiple payments, same clinic Kathy had visited. They hadn't just betrayed her once. They had kept betraying her, even after she cut ties, even after she begged for space, even while pretending to reconcile through phone calls, fake smiles, and guilt trips about family dinners. They were stealing from her. The air felt thinner. Samantha stood up slowly, walked into Liam's room, and watched him sleep. His small chest rose and fell, his face soft despite the gauze still tucked along his gums. She knelt beside the bed, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "I will never let them touch you again," she whispered. Then she rose, walked back to her desk, and opened a new folder on her laptop. She named it Fire. And inside it, she began building the case that would burn everything down. The next few days were a blur of appointments and paperwork. Samantha moved quietly but swiftly. She filed revocation letters, contacted the hospital to remove her parents as emergency contacts, and initiated the process of stripping them of any legal access to Liam's records. She even signed off on an affidavit with her lawyer to revoke all prior permissions involving her personal affairs. It wasn't just about boundaries anymore, it was about protection. Every time she checked another item off the list, she felt her spine stiffen a little more. It wasn't just legal housekeeping, it was war armour. Her lawyer, Nadine, arranged a court date for emergency protective measures. "We'll start with a restraining order against your sister," she said. "Your parents will follow. With the texts, medical report, and photo evidence, the judge won't hesitate." Samantha nodded, her voice low. Good. I want them completely cut out. No visitation, no contact, not even a postcard. Nadine tapped the file on her desk. You'll get it. But Samantha, once this starts, there's no going back. Samantha met her eyes. That's the idea. She returned home to a quiet apartment. Liam curled up on the couch, a blanket pulled to his chin as he watched cartoons in silence. His laugh was still missing. She longed for it like air. While Liam rested, she began compiling the final digital archive. Every piece of evidence, every screenshot, every photograph, sorted, labelled and backed up. Her phone buzzed with messages from unknown numbers, likely her family, but she ignored them all. Around midnight, she remembered the old digital recorder she used during nursing school. She had stored it in a box with old belongings at her parents' house. But during the chaos of leaving, she'd tossed the box into her trunk and forgotten about it. Curious, she dug it out, dusted it off, and plugged it in. There were several saved clips, mostly lectures, but one file, unnamed and time-stamped weeks earlier, caught her attention. She hit play. The static buzzed for a second, then a voice. Her father. She's useless, always has been. You know she's going to start something again, right? Her mother's voice answered, Just let her rant. She always burns out. Then the father again, deeper this time. If she died, it'd save us all the damn trouble. Samantha dropped the recorder. The words echoed in the room, colder than steel. If she died... She picked it up slowly, replaying it. There was no mistaking it, no metaphor, no joke. Her father had said, without hesitation, that her death would be a relief. It wasn't just disdain, it wasn't just family tension. It was hatred, pure toxic, festering for years under the surface, hidden behind polite smiles and concerned comments. Her breath grew shallow, her hands trembled. This wasn't disappointment, this wasn't miscommunication. This was a father who could say something so vile about his own daughter, and a mother who didn't even flinch. Samantha stood in her dark living room, staring into nothing, the recorder still playing that loop of casual malice. It hit her all at once. She had been begging for love from people who wished she would disappear, and worse, they had now turned that cruelty onto her child. A scream built in her chest, but she didn't let it out. Instead, she moved like lightning, clipping the recording, saving it, uploading it into the evidence folder. She labelled it Final Straw. Then, for the first time in days, she smiled, but it wasn't out of happiness. It was out of clarity. She was done being the daughter who pleaded. She was done hoping they'd change. Now, she would become their reckoning. Samantha didn't knock this time. She walked straight through the front gate, her heels crunching against the gravel, each step sharp and deliberate. The manila folder under her arm felt heavier than it should have. Inside it were documents that would sever generations of ties, clean, permanent, and merciless. The front door opened before she reached it. Kathy leaned in the doorway, her smirk automatic. Well, look who came crawling back. Samantha didn't flinch. I'm not here to crawl, just talk. Oh, I love a good breakdown monologue, Kathy drawled, stepping aside. The house smelled the same, old wood and lavender, air freshener masking rot. Their father sat in his recliner, watching a news clip of his own retirement speech. Their mother stood in the kitchen, microwaving leftovers. Nice of you to show, her father muttered, eyes glued to the screen. Samantha didn't sit. She stood at the edge of the kitchen, the folder clutched tight. I'm not here to argue, she said. I'm here to say goodbye. Her mother raised a brow. Another one of your melodramas? Kathy flopped onto the couch. So dramatic. You cutting us off again? Boo-hoo. Samantha stayed calm. No, I'm cutting myself off entirely. That made them pause. Her father looked over. You say that every time. Samantha nodded. Yes, but this time I brought paperwork. She stepped forward and laid the folder on the counter. 3 copies, all notarized, all final. Her mother snatched one up, flipping through the pages. Her face paled as she read. Power of attorney revoked. Medical proxy terminated. Bank signature removed. Samantha's voice was steady. You can't speak for me. You will never speak for Liam again. You ungrateful little, her father started. She cut him off. And there's more. She pulled out a second envelope, thinner but just as important. Restraining orders, filed and processed. You are not allowed within 500 feet of my son. You can't, Kathy started. Samantha turned to her. And you? You assaulted a child. That was battery. I could have pressed charges, Kathy snorted. But you didn't. So what? Now you're bluffing. Samantha didn't respond. Instead, she placed one final envelope on the table. This one was addressed to their church, the family's pride and pedestal. That, she said, is a full report, photos of Liam's injury, your texts about teaching him a lesson, and a transcript of your dad wishing I was dead. Her mother gasped. You wouldn't. I did, Samantha replied. It's already delivered to your pastor, and a copy's on its way to the board of your country club, the same one that gave you that parenting award last fall. The room was silent. Her father's jaw clenched. Her mother's hands trembled. Kathy's voice came in a hiss. You rightful boo! Samantha leaned in. You didn't just humiliate my child. You tried to erase his joy, so I'm erasing you. No yelling, no theatrics, just silence and certainty. She turned, walked to the door and paused with her hand on the knob. Oh. And by the way, your portraits in the church lobby, they're already down. Public child shaming doesn't pair well with stained glass. She left them frozen in their perfect kitchen, surrounded by hollow trophies and quiet judgment. And outside, for the first time in a long time, the air felt clean. As Samantha stepped toward the door, Kathy's voice sliced through the silence. You know what? I should sue you for defamation. You're spreading lies. My lawyer will shred you. Samantha didn't even turn around. You won't need to, Kathy blinked. Excuse me? Samantha slowly turned, pulling out one last folded sheet from her purse and tossing it onto the counter. That's confirmation of my report, filed with Child Protective Services, along with all the photographic evidence, witness statements, and a copy of your messages. Kathy's face blanched. You laid hands on a minor. That's not just morally bankrupt, it's illegal. Her mother sputtered. You reported us. No, Samantha said, her voice cutting like frost. I reported you. I protected him, the way a real parent should. Kathy laughed, but it was brittle, desperate. No one's going to believe you. You've always been unstable, emotional, vindictive. Samantha raised an eyebrow, which is why I didn't rely on just my word. I submitted medical documentation, the ER report, images of Liam's cracked tooth, and let's not forget your brilliant text about teaching him a lesson. She let the words settle, their weight undeniable. Her father stood now towering, trying to reclaim his presence in the room. You'll regret this. No, she replied, I'll recover from this. But you? You're going to unravel piece by piece. They didn't understand yet what was coming, but they would. Samantha had set more wheels in motion than they could stop now. As she turned back toward the door, Kathy scoffed, arms crossed. You're bluffing. Samantha's calm didn't falter. Check your inbox, Kathy. The moment she walked out the door, Kathy stormed toward her phone. Within seconds, the house echoed with her shriek. You sent this to my office? Samantha smiled to herself. She hadn't just sent the report to Child Services. She'd also carbon copied the HR department at Kathy's firm. An anonymous tip with attachments. They wouldn't ignore it. Not in a post-lawsuit world. Not with photos of a child's injury. Let them rage, let them panic, let them drown in the consequences they'd always managed to outrun. Samantha walked down the front steps like a soldier returning from battle. Her chest didn't feel lighter, but it felt clearer. There was a difference. By the time she got to her car, her phone buzzed. A message from Nadine. Restraining orders officially granted. They're locked out. She exhaled, long and deep. It was done. Not just the paperwork, not just the confrontation, but the spell, the curse of needing them had been broken. She no longer saw them as family, just people who happened to share her blood. People who now, legally, had no hold over her or Liam. The moment she sat behind the wheel, her hands trembled, not from fear, but release. For the first time in her life, she had not just escaped them, she had defeated them. And better yet, she had done it without lowering herself to their level. No screaming matches, no physical retaliation, just the truth and the law and a mother's love turned into armour. As she pulled out of the driveway, she caught one last glance in the rearview mirror. Kathy on the porch, phone in hand, face twisted in rage. Her mother at the window, trembling. Her father, pacing behind them, shouting at no one. They had lost control. The image they cherished of the perfect, reputable, respected family was beginning to crack. And Samantha had only just started chiseling. This wasn't revenge. It was justice with teeth. The fallout came faster than Samantha expected. It began with a headline, buried in the local paper's human interest column. Local woman under investigation after alleged assault on child. No names, but the description was unmistakable. Kathy's firm issued a bland public statement the next day. We are aware of the situation and have taken appropriate disciplinary action pending the investigation. By Friday, her name had been scrubbed from the company's website. By Monday, her email bounced back with an auto reply. No longer employed. Samantha didn't gloat, but she did notice that the neighbourhood mom groups Kathy used to dominate had gone silent. Her social media presence, once a curated gallery of glamour, brunches, and backhanded parenting tips, was now locked, private, and dormant. Next came the church. A formal letter arrived at her parents' house, one Samantha had a copy of, courtesy of her contact on the church board. In light of recent disturbing revelations and public concern regarding your family's conduct, we are suspending your honorary roles within the community outreach and youth mentorship programs until further notice. Translation, you've been exposed. Their framed certificates, once proudly displayed in the hallway near the piano, were quietly removed. It wasn't just embarrassment. It was exile. But the twist Samantha didn't see coming landed in her inbox one quiet afternoon as she was organising Liam's art supplies. The sender was unrecognisable at first. Marla Harper, a name from college, not close, but familiar. One of those people who always hovered on the edge of friendships. The subject line read, "You need to see this." Samantha hesitated, then opened it. Inside was a brief message. "I work in county social services now. I'm not supposed to send this, but you deserve to know. Kathy came into our office 6 months ago trying to start a guardianship claim. She said you were mentally unfit, unstable, and that Liam needed to be placed in temporary state care for his own good. Her plan was to request placement after a short holding period. Guess where? With her. I shut it down immediately. Thought you should know. Attached was a redacted intake form, Kathy's handwriting, Kathy's signature. Samantha stared at the screen, hand frozen over her mouse. She had always suspected malice, but this wasn't petty cruelty, it was strategic, premeditated. Kathy had tried to take her son away, not out of love, not even out of concern, but for power, control, image. A slow-burning nausea twisted in Samantha's gut. All those years she told herself, Gimad, she was being paranoid, oversensitive, difficult, and all along, Kathy had been laying groundwork for a complete takeover, while smiling to her face. Samantha stood, walked to the bathroom, and stared at her reflection. The woman in the mirror didn't look broken anymore. She looked like someone who had faced the monster under her bed and realized it wore familiar skin. She returned to her desk, replied to Marla with 2 words, "Thank you." Then she saved the email to her evidence archive. They thought she wouldn't find out. They thought she wouldn't fight back. They thought wrong. The call came just past dinner. Samantha recognized the number immediately. Her father's landline. She stared at the screen as it buzzed in her hand, heart steady but her thumb unmoving. She let it ring out, then again and again. On the 4th attempt, curiosity got the better of her. She answered. There was silence at first, then the low, gravelly voice. She hadn't heard it directly in weeks. "Samantha," he said, no emotion, no apology, just her name, as if it held weight on its own. "I don't think we need to do this over the phone," she replied evenly. "I just wanted to talk." "You had years to talk. You chose judgment instead." He sighed like the victim. "You've made quite the mess, haven't you?" There it was, the shift, not regret, not remorse, just irritation that his reputation was burning. Samantha didn't respond. He continued. "Your mother's been crying every night. Kathy's lost her job. The board asked us to step down from the fundraiser next month. Are you happy now?" She closed her eyes. "That's what you care about? Titles? Events? What do you want from us?" he snapped. She exhaled slowly. "I wanted you to care when your grandson bled. I wanted you to stop my sister from hurting a child. I wanted you to call your daughter when she was in the ER, not your lawyer." He was quiet. "I never wanted revenge," she added. "I just wanted you to love us, or at least pretend to try." Another pause. Then, "Come home, we'll figure it out." Samantha smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We were never home." She hung up. That night, the text came. Kathy. "I'm sorry for everything. I was under stress. We were all on edge. I didn't mean for things to go that far. Let's talk?" Samantha read it twice, 3 times. It wasn't remorse. It was strategy. The tone wasn't one of guilt. It was damage control. She could almost picture Kathy rehearsing the phrasing, weighing which words would sound the least incriminating. Another text followed. "People are turning on me. You know I'm not a bad person. I just snapped. Please don't destroy my life over one mistake." Samantha stared at the screen. One mistake? A broken tooth, a trauma that silenced a child, a planned guardianship coup, and the nerve to call it one mistake. She didn't reply. Instead, she turned off her phone and walked to Liam's room. He was asleep, curled up with his stuffed stegosaurus, mouth slightly parted, soft snores like ocean waves. She sat beside him, brushed the hair from his forehead. For a long moment, she sat in the quiet. And in that silence, a truth crystallized. The people who should have protected her had failed her. The people she had trusted to love her child had instead wounded him. And now They were sorry. Not for the pain they caused, but for the consequences they faced. But Samantha no longer needed their validation. She had her son, her peace, her truth. And that was enough. As she turned off the lamp, she whispered to herself, not a vow, but a release. We don't go back. Not this time. The art studio smelled like paint and fresh clay, and for Samantha, like hope. It was Liam's first day in the after-school creative program. The room was bright, walls plastered with children's paintings, some abstract chaos, some surprisingly detailed. There were jars of markers, baskets of coloured pencils, and shelves lined with construction paper and glue. Liam clung to her hand, eyes wide but quiet. "You don't have to stay," the instructor smiled. Her name was Natalie, mid-30s, kind eyes, jeans with ink stains. Most of the kids open up once they see the glitter table. Samantha knelt beside Liam. "I'll be right outside, okay? You just try to have fun." He nodded slowly, his grip loosening. She gave him one last reassuring smile and stepped into the hallway, heart pounding louder than her steps. It was the first time she'd left him with strangers since everything, since the blood, the betrayal, the quiet that followed. She peeked through the glass after 10 minutes. Liam was seated at a table, clutching a blue crayon, but not using it. Other kids chattered around him. One boy tried showing him a robot he'd drawn. Liam nodded, polite but silent. Day 1 passed with quiet observation. Day 2, he picked up a brush. By the end of week 1, he had painted a sunset. No smiles yet, but progress. Samantha made it a routine. Walk him in, linger by the door, watch from the car. She never once told him the full story of what happened at his grandparents' house. She never used words like attack or abuse or betrayal. She simply said they weren't safe anymore, and that his laughter was never the problem. Some truths could wait. Others she whispered every day in how she packed his lunch, folded his hoodie, kissed his forehead. "You are safe. You are loved. You are not broken." One Tuesday afternoon, Samantha arrived early for pickup. She stood by the door watching through the glass as the class worked on a mythical creatures project. Liam was in deep concentration, sculpting with clay. She couldn't see the details yet, but his hands moved with purpose. Natalie knelt beside him. Samantha couldn't hear their voices, but she saw Liam nod as the teacher asked something. Then he said something else. Natalie blinked, then smiled warmly. She scribbled on her clipboard and walked away. Liam placed the finishing touch on his sculpture, a tiny pair of wings. When Samantha entered, Liam ran up to her, clay smudged across his fingers. "Look," he beamed, holding up a small dragon figure. Its mouth was wide open in a goofy grin. "It's beautiful," Samantha whispered. "I told Miss Natalie," Liam said proudly, "that Mommy said I wasn't wrong for laughing." Samantha's throat tightened. She asked why I gave the dragon a smile that big, he continued, and I said, "Because sometimes people get scared of loud laughs, but Mommy said mine is brave." She crouched, arms around him before she could speak. Twist 8 had landed, not a shock of pain, but a revelation of healing. He remembered her words, he believed them, and more importantly, he was starting to believe in himself again. As they walked to the car, Liam held her hand tightly. "Do you think dragons can laugh really, really loud?" he asked. Samantha smiled through tears. "I think they have the loudest laughs of all." The living room was quiet, the kind of quiet Samantha had grown used to, but tonight it didn't feel heavy. It felt peaceful. Liam sat cross-legged on the rug, flipping through his dinosaur book, while their golden retriever, Daisy, snoozed beside him. The warm glow of the lamp bathed the room in honey-coloured light. Samantha was in the kitchen finishing dishes when she heard it. A giggle. Not the polite, cautious one he'd learned to offer when adults made jokes he didn't understand. No, this one was real, full-bodied, belly deep. She dropped the sponge and froze. Then came another, louder, this time with a snort, the kind of sound she hadn't heard in months. Samantha rushed to the doorway, just in time to see Daisy leap into a spin, chasing her own tail with wild enthusiasm. Liam clutched his stomach, tears streaming down his cheeks, body rocking with laughter. He was glowing, laughing so hard. He fell over, gasping, "She's going to lift off like a helicopter." And then more laughter, so loud and so pure that Samantha forgot to breathe. Her knees buckled as she slid to the floor, tears running freely now, not from grief or anger or exhaustion, but from joy, from release. Liam crawled over to her, still giggling. "Did you see her? Did you see the twirl?" Samantha pulled him into her arms and held him close, his laughter vibrating against her chest like music. "I saw," she whispered, kissing his hair. "It was the best thing I've seen all year." They stayed like that for a while, wrapped in warmth, in healing, in proof that the darkness hadn't won. Later that evening they pulled out their art supplies. Samantha hadn't drawn in years, but Liam insisted. "Let's make a comic," he said, "about Daisy, the helicopter dog." She chuckled. "Only if I get to colour the explosions?" He grinned. "Deal." So they sat side by side on the living room floor, drawing panels of Daisy battling evil mailmen and spinning through skies. Liam's voice narrated every scene with gusto, adding sound effects and dramatic plot twists. At one point he paused, looked at her and asked, "Mommy, are we okay now?" Samantha didn't answer right away. She looked at the paper in front of them, bright, chaotic, beautiful. She looked at her son, clay under his nails, crayon on his cheek, life in his eyes. "Yes, baby," she said, "we're more than okay." That night, after Liam fell asleep with drawings scattered around him, Samantha stood by his bed, hand over her heart. The laughter had returned, not just to their home, but to their souls. It didn't erase what had happened. It didn't fix every crack. But it reminded her why she'd fought, not for revenge, not even for justice, for this, for the sound of her son laughing so hard at a spinning dog that the whole world felt possible again. The title came to her in the quiet, "The Boy Who Laughed." Not a scream, not a sob, a laugh. Because that's what they tried to erase. That's what she fought to restore. Samantha began assembling the exhibit late one evening, sitting cross-legged on her living room floor with photo albums, USB drives, and stacks of old-school projects. Each image she chose was deliberate, Liam giggling in a mud puddle, Liam howling with laughter at a puppet show, Liam's toothless grin beside his clay dinosaur. What she didn't include was just as intentional. There were no grandparents in the frames, no aunt, no hollow holidays or forced smiles. She edited them out, not with malice, but with purpose. Because they didn't earn space in his story. They tried to write over it. But now Samantha held the pen. She titled each photo with a caption. Age 5. Laughed at a bubble bigger than his face. Age 6. Lost his first tooth laughing too hard at a joke he told himself. Age 7, found his laughter again. Each piece was a rebellion against silence. A testament to joy. She curated it carefully, thoughtfully, then emailed a proposal to the local library's community archive. They responded within a week. "We'd be honoured to host it." She blinked at the message, stunned. Not only would the exhibit be accepted, it would replace another. The library had been reviewing its Notable Families of the County archive for revision. One exhibit, long overdue for removal, had been quietly marked for decommission. Her parents, their curated vault of grainy VHS tapes, yellowed newspaper clippings, and framed awards, had sat on that wall for a decade. A tribute to philanthropy and community service. A lie in a glass case. Now it would be replaced by the truth. Samantha didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply breathed, deep and full, as if reclaiming air that had never felt like hers. Weeks later, the exhibit opened. There was no grand ribbon cutting, no press conference, just a single wooden sign at the entrance. The Boy Who Laughed. A visual archive curated by Samantha W. It was quiet, gentle, honest. Visitors trickled in. Some cried, some laughed, some just stared at the captured joy of a boy they'd never met. Samantha stood in the back corner, unnoticed, watching. When a child pointed to a photo of Liam with a foam crown and said, "He looks like a superhero," Samantha's chest ached in the best way. She stepped outside into the crisp air and pulled out her phone. No new messages from Kathy. No missed calls from her parents. Only peace. And that was the point. They had tried to build a legacy on image and denial. On fake smiles and perfectly posed portraits. She had built one on honesty, on healing, on a boy's laughter echoing through a gallery that once celebrated silence. And now, for the first time, she felt what legacy really meant. It wasn't about being remembered by everyone. It was about being remembered right. It was a Saturday morning when Samantha brought Liam to the exhibit. He held her hand as they walked into the library foyer, where soft, natural light spilled across the polished floors. He wore his favourite hoodie, the one with the dragon-breathing glitter instead of fire, and his eyes widened as they approached the entryway. "The Boy Who Laughed," he read aloud, tracing the letters with his finger. "That's me?" Samantha smiled. Every part of it. The gallery was quiet, just a few patrons wandering through, pausing to read captions, to admire the photographs arranged like a storybook across the walls. Liam wandered from one image to the next, sometimes giggling, sometimes tilting his head, as if seeing his own memories from outside himself. There he was at age 5, grinning with blue icing smeared across his face. Age 6, building a sandcastle with utter concentration. Age 7, spinning in the backyard with Daisy mid-leap beside him. Each photo radiated joy, unfiltered, unposed, unafraid. When they reached the end of the hallway, Liam stopped in front of the final panel. It was a close-up of him from just 2 months ago, laughing uncontrollably, arms wrapped around Daisy, eyes squinting with happiness. The caption read, "He laughed again, and this time no one stopped him." He turned to Samantha, quiet now, thoughtful. "Mum?" "Yes, baby? You picked me, right? You picked me over them?" Samantha didn't hesitate. "I always picked you." His face crumpled, not in sadness, but in that overwhelmed way children sometimes get when something too big to understand hits the heart. He wrapped his arms around her waist, burying his face in her sweater. She held him close, pressing her lips to the top of his head. "They tried to make us believe we were the broken ones," she whispered. "But we were never broken. We were just brave in a world that didn't want to hear our laughter." He looked up at her, eyes glossy. "We don't have to go back, do we?" "Never," she said, "forward only." As they left the gallery hand in hand, the librarian at the front desk gave Samantha a soft nod. "I've never seen something so honest," she said. "You've done something important. Samantha thanked her but didn't say more. She didn't need to, because the truth was this: she hadn't needed to destroy them. She hadn't needed to scream or drag them through court or plaster their sins across a screen. They had done all that on their own. They had cracked under the weight of their own image, their own need for control. All Samantha had done was remove herself from the wreckage. And in doing so, she gave her son a version of life that wasn't filtered through fear. She'd rewritten the ending, not with rage, but with resilience, not with fire, but with freedom. Later that night, Liam fell asleep with a drawing beside him. It was a self-portrait of sorts, a boy with a crown, riding a dragon with a lopsided grin. Across the top, in wobbly letters, it read, "The loudest laugh wins." Samantha smiled as she turned off the light. Not every legacy has to be loud. Sometimes the quiet ones are the strongest,